Welcome. You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Welcome back to the Be a Better Being podcast. I am Michelle Zellner, joined today by my beautiful co-host Sasha. And we are going to have, let's just say it, we're going to have a very emotional conversation today.
Yeah.
Many of you may or may not be aware, April is Autism Acceptance Month.
Yes.
And Sasha has a daughter who
Yes.
has autism. And so I really just want to give you this space, this time to share your thoughts, your journey of motherhood, of navigating the challenges of having a child who is other than the way you thought it was going to be in your life. And we're just going to have the kind of that open, raw conversation. And I think this is just another layer of you that I want people to know about. So giving you the floor, girlfriend.
I am so honored for this opportunity because for the last 4 years of my life, I have been struggling to accept and divulge at the same time because I never wanted to offend anyone, and I also I'm not an expert, I don't know what to expect. I don't really, it's just a completely new territory for me, and the foundation of all of this has taught me that I am not in control of anything, really.
So let's go back. You and Andrew are married. You're going to have children. You have this picture of what life is going to be like.
Sure.
Let's just start there and kind of walk down the path.
Okay. So I'm going to, yes, we're married. Sure. We got married when I was 6 months pregnant. My mother's side of the family let me know that, and it wasn't my mom, so I don't want to say that it was my mom, but it was individuals on my mom's side of the family that let me know that they would prefer that we get married before that the baby was born, to ensure that the baby had a blessed life. Okay, that's great. I love that. Thank you very much. We'll get married. So we had a very fun and low-key wedding. We had only my immediate family and his immediate family, and then followed by, we went and got pancakes afterwards to celebrate. Now, the things that you need to know about where I was, and a lot of this stuff that I am just sharing with the world, will be first time that I am saying out loud, first time that a lot of my friends will hear this. Again, you guys, I am not, please do not hear this and get offended. Don't wish things were different for me. Don't, just think of it as a way to be able to look at the flowers that I have grown and to admire them more, and to smell them in a different light, maybe. When I was, I will say, 6 weeks pregnant, I got the largest cystic acne all over my face. I was an avid CrossFitter. I was eating amazing, very healthy choices. I was in tip-top shape, and I had no idea where this acne was coming from. I was angry. I was depressed. I just had no idea. So I went to go see a dermatologist, and the dermatologist told me, you just turned 30, right? I'm like, yeah, like literally 2 weeks ago. Like literally my 30th birthday was 2 weeks ago. And he's like, oh, that's what it is. This is your hormones. So without checking my hormones, without doing any testing, they started to put me on all these steroids and like these topical creams and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I know my body. Like, this is what's so funny, you guys. I go, I know my body so well. There is no way that this is from my hormones. And I started just to do, I don't even want to say did research, but my girlfriend Carly reached out to me and she said, yeah, Sasha, I think you need to take a pregnancy test. This was like 2 weeks after I had gone to the dermatologist. And I'm like, a pregnancy test? She's like, yeah, girl, you're kind of hormonal. And I'm like, I am not hormonal. I'm pregnancy test, and lo and behold, Sasha's pregnant. Okay, so this is before we're married, before everything. And I will say about 5 months into my pregnancy, and mind you, I had the worst first trimester possible. I was so incredibly sick. I was sick the entire pregnancy, to be honest. But about 5 months into my pregnancy, I remember thinking to myself, something's off. Something's wrong. Something doesn't, this shouldn't be the way pregnancy feels. This is not right, and I don't know what to do. So I don't necessarily, and someday Kyan will listen to this, I don't necessarily know if my body was trying to resist the pregnancy, but I was so incredibly sick, and it was showing up in everywhere, like from my face to the way that I could sleep, to the way that my bowel movements, I mean, every single thing was off. There was not a pleasant moment within this pregnancy, which is why I didn't take pictures. It wasn't that I wasn't proud to be pregnant, because of course I was proud, but I felt like something was off, and I wasn't proud about that feeling. I've never admitted that before. Sorry, Andrew. Sorry, Mom, when you listen to this. I knew something was different. Whatever. Fast forward to 30 weeks, 29 weeks, I start to have like these really morbid pains, and I go into my 29 week pregnancy check. The doctor that I had picked, I am one of those people, you guys, that like, I don't do my due diligence. I don't do my research. I kind of, when it comes to doctors and stuff, and now these things have changed. Kyan has completely changed my life. I just kind of threw a dart at the Google form, and I was like, cool, this lady sounds like whatever. She's open. I'll just go to her. So she did not do the best of job during my entire pregnancy. Even, it doesn't matter. Like, I can't change it, so it is what it is. But on my 29th week pregnancy, I went in because I was just really uncomfortable, and I have a very, very, very high pain tolerance. Like, I love pain. Pain is my jam. Like, it's my favorite. And I think that has to do with soccer. You know what I mean? Because you just push through all the pain. Like, someone will tackle you from like behind, and you're like, ha ha ha, look at me, I'm walking after you tackled me, girl. So I just have a very high pain tolerance. And the doctor looked at me, and she's like, oh, that's because you're in labor. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm glad I came in, because this is what labor feels like. Awesome. So I went, they sent me to the women's hospital, where they were able to stop labor, and then they put me on bed rest for the remainder of my pregnancy. I can't really remember. I think a lot of this is because of my post-traumatic whatever. Like, there's just a lot that I experienced that I'm now finally unpacking. 4 years later, I just started therapy to go over all of the trauma that I experienced. But I went into the hospital. They were able to stop it. I went home. I was on bed rest, and in true Sasha fashion, oh, I can't believe I'm admitting this. In true Sasha fashion, it was 31 weeks, 4 days, I went to Lowe's. And I decided that I wanted to go and pick out some plants for my mom to plant so that the outside would look nice. We were having the baby shower at our house. It was supposed to be when I was like 35 weeks pregnant, so people were supposed to be able to come over. I had invited like 250 people to this baby shower. We didn't have a wedding or a ceremony, so it was going to be like a baby shower / celebration of our wedding, and like go all out for this baby shower. The following day, so we're going back to 31.4 days. The very next day, 31.5, 11 a.m. in the morning, I roll over. I'm in bed, right? Quote unquote bed rest. But I was on bed rest with the exception of Lowe's. And this is where I kick myself and I'm upset with myself. But hey, like I said, there's nothing I can do about it now. And additionally, I would not be the person I am without Kyan and the things that we have had to face together. I roll over in bed, 11 a.m., my water breaks. Andrew and his dad are downstairs in the basement putting carpet down to get ready for the party that we're supposed to have in a couple weeks. And I scream, Andrew! He's like, yeah. I'm like, my water broke. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, I don't. Are you kidding me? Like, am I sure, dude?
Such a guy response.
Like, are you kidding me? So, and then here's such a Sasha response to that. I go, yes, my water broke. I'm going to go ahead and drive myself to the hospital. And he goes, I'm sorry, what? I'm like, well, you guys need to finish laying the carpet. Like, I don't need you to drive me to the hospital. Like, I got this. And he's like, you want me to finish laying the carpet downstairs when your water broke? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, absolutely not. So he stopped everything. We go to the hospital. And I do believe that God is real. I believe that God is everywhere and God is always with me. And from that, even from that moment when I checked in, to the nurse that he gifted me, Michelle, the nurse that delivered Kyan, this will be good for all of you listeners to realize how much I believe in God. The nurse, Brooke, who took care of me, who was the only person that literally, like, I've never had anyone be there the way that Brooke was, is the same nurse who invited our girl who hooked us up together. Nice. So, yes, Kayla. Nice. Yeah, yes. Kayla is Brooke's cousin. Brooke invited Kayla to Sasha's 7 Day. Kayla introduced you to me. So, all of this, even in this moment, is because of Kyan. So, wow. Yes, exactly. Brooke does all her stuff. She goes, I'm sorry, sweetheart. There's nothing we could do. We're delivering this baby today. And I said, okay, Brooke, that's fine. Let's do this. I opted to go the natural route with Kyan. I don't know what would happen had I not opted to go that route. 8 p.m. that night, I gave birth to Kyan. She was bright purple. She didn't breathe for the first 4 minutes of her life. And there were probably 8 to 12 nurses / doctors surrounding my daughter, my husband, and my mom were also all surrounding Kyan, and the only person laying there with me to hold me was Brooke. And Brooke was off of work at 7. She called her husband and she said, there's something about this woman, I have to stay with her. So she opted to get off of the clock and just sit there as a friend. Huh. So Brooke is someone that is very, 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 very important and special to me, and we have a bond that is untold. And I think it just goes to show that there's no coincidences. Because of that day, I mean, now here you and I are talking, you know? So I will say this, I didn't get to see my daughter for the first day of her life. She was in the NICU. She was rushed after they got her breathing. She was rushed to the NICU. She was intubated. She was intubated for, I don't know. Again, you guys, my timeline, I always tell people keep a diary. I always tell people make sure you write everything down so you can go back and remember it and like retrace your steps. I did not want to do that. I didn't want to journal a single thing. I knew something was wrong. I would say on day 3. I have a picture. I took a picture of Kyan. And guys, I don't mean wrong, okay? There's nothing wrong with my daughter. These are just the words that I'm using right now. This is not versed. This is just free flowing. So again, I'm not trying to offend anyone out there. These are the words that I'm picking. So Kyan had this everyone says it's a deep look. Like you could look at her eyes, and I'll post it on our social media so that you guys know exactly what picture it is. They would always say, wow, you could see the universe in her eyes. And in my mother's intuition, I said, that's not the universe. There's just something off. And I kept fighting for her. We were in the NICU for 74 days. We left with a feeding tube. The only reason we got to leave when we did, because when we left, she still didn't know how to eat. It took her, I would say 60 days, so a full 2 months to learn how to breathe on her own. She had these apnea spells where she would just, the machine would start to beep at us when she would just stop breathing. So she would go lifeless. In other words, like she would just have these, Michelle, are they called apnea or apneatic spells, or what is it called?
Yeah,
Like,
apnea means without breath.
okay.
So
She
yeah.
would just, from the moment that she was born up until about 60 days into her life, she had to constantly go, a nurse would constantly have to go in there to shake her awake, not shake, okay, but nudge her awake. There are no shaking babies at this hospital. So again, I apologize for my word choices, but she didn't, her brain was so premature, you guys, that she, the, the capability and having these thought process of something as simple as, hey, I need to breathe, or hey, I need to suck. She didn't learn how to suck until she was like 30 days old. You have a 31-week-old. This child was born 9 weeks prematurely. And if you want to think about it, the most amount of growth in all of your life happens when you're in the womb. And these last 10, well, I'll say 8 weeks of your life. So the first 32 weeks of your life is all your cell growth, your brain development, and then these last 8 weeks, and Michelle, please correct me, use all your scholarly knowledge on this, but it's to download brain processes and then additionally to grow, because it is the most rapid growth of your life is in those last, I mean, the full 40 weeks, but the last 8 weeks is really that downloading, right? Because it's all brain function. And do you have anything to add for that stuff? No.
No, I mean, I think that sums it up nicely. I'm not an expert on pregnancy
Yeah,
and,
no, nor am I.
growth and development of
No.
fetuses either.
Yeah.
However, I will say this is why there is always such a push to get women to as close to full term as possible,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
Because so much happens in that last 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah,
That's
and
really critical.
I remember when I was at that pregnant, at that check-in, that time when she's like, "Hey, you're actually in labor." I remember she said to me, and I wish she wouldn't have ever said this to me. I wish she would have never said this to me, but she said, 32 weekers go to Creighton. And what that means is there's a school here in Omaha, it's called Creighton, and what she was just trying to say is that if we can get your daughter to 32 weeks normally, 32 weekers, their brain are developed enough to be able to live a fully functioning life. My daughter is not a 32-weeker that can go to Creighton. And so that phrase always sticks with me. And, that was my biggest push with Draco, because now I know, now that I've had 2 babies, now I know that my body's really good at getting pregnant. It's very terrible at staying pregnant. Draco was also a preterm baby. He was birthed at 34 weeks. So you can even see what a difference is in that brain maturity between those 3 weeks. So it's so crucial to keep those babies in. The mark that I now have an amazing, not saying that this other woman wasn't, I just wasn't listening to my intuition and following my gut. But they say 36 weeks is considered, quote unquote, well, 36 to 37, a full-term baby. So if you can make it to 36-37, there's a lot less issues that can come about. So let's go back to the NICU. We were 74 days in there. We left because I was tired of being in the hospital. I was tired of spending, and as a new mom, I was tired of spending all my time there, and then additionally feeling guilty when I wasn't there. There was just this looming feeling like, what kind of mom are you if you're just at home? Like, you better get your ass over there and sit in the hospital and just sit there and watch your little daughter. Like, you need to go there for her. And so I did that. I spent a lot of time in the NICU. I slept there a lot. I would find myself waking up, texting Tasha and saying, I'm not in a good place. I'm really not in a good place. I just need someone to know that I'm not in a good place. I don't need you. Please do not respond to this text message. But just having someone know that I'm not in a good place made it feel digestible. Like, I can do this. Like, I'm not alone. And so for those of you moms who are struggling, find a safe place to just be yourself, to reach out to someone. And even if that just means, like, please do not respond to this text message, but know that I'm not doing okay. That seemed to help me a lot. A lot. So we were able to leave the NICU as long as I was able to pass the training on how to place an NG tube in my daughter. So I had to learn how to deal with an NG tube, how to do the feedings. There was a home health person that would come once a week to make sure that I was doing okay. And I think we had her home for about 3 months. And I looked at Andrew and I said, dude, if I don't pull this NG tube, how is she ever going to learn how to eat? And there was something nudging me that was, talk to the doctor. So we had a lot of specialists from the moment that she was born to even today. I say this girl has always had an entourage. From the moment she was born, she had 13 people surrounding her. This little girl is a change agent, and I'm just following suit. Like, I'm just taking what she gives me and I just create from it. So she's always had cheerleaders. She's always had an entourage. When you are born early in the state of Nebraska, you are put on what's called TIPS. So that's a program that the state of Nebraska has built in to basically walk through you. They send you questionnaires to see if your child's hitting milestones. And then if they're not hitting milestones, then they will send you an IEP. So, and you guys, I have no idea. I can't remember what any of these things stand for, but it's an educational plan, that's what it's called. An intervention educational plan where they will send out occupational therapists, speech therapists, like all these type of therapists to your home at no cost through the state to make sure that you have the resources at your fingertips to help provide resources for you and your family. So we had someone in the house every Tuesday, every Thursday working on her motor skills, helping me transition her from the NG tube. Now, I was okayed. I didn't like pull the tube out and say, I'm doing this all on my own. Like, I was okayed by her specialist, by her eating specialist, to try it out, knowing that if she wasn't gaining weight successfully, that she may potentially have to go back to the feeding tube. Kyan was always difficult to get her to eat. She didn't do a very good job with bottles up until I feel like her brain matured when she was about 1 year old. She's still a little petite thing. She is almost 4 years old and probably weighs 26 pounds. She's very petite. She knows when she needs to eat. She knows when she doesn't want to eat. She knows when she's thirsty. She knows when she doesn't want water. She knows what she needs. She is probably, besides you and me, because I know that you are very in tune with your body, Michelle. I know I'm very proud of being in tune with my body, with the exception of, this is what always makes me laugh, is that I always say, I'm so in tune with my body. Yeah, I had no idea I was pregnant. Like, that's what's so funny to me. But Kyan is very in tune with her body. She knows what she wants. She eats when she wants. And I'm not going to force my daughter to eat when she doesn't want to. Now, that's what I'm saying here as a 4-year-old. When she was little, we would feed her every 3 hours. We would offer the bottle. At the 5-month mark, I still hadn't received a smile. And she had very blank emotions. She didn't respond to her name. She didn't coo. She cried often. She didn't like being on her back. And I just remember that the 5-month mark is when I was like, okay. This is me confirming that something is not wrong, not off, different. There's something different. So I continued to put her in all of the therapies without a diagnosis. She has always been in occupational therapy since the day she was born, really. She's always been in speech therapy since the day she was born, truly. Because speech therapists will also help your child learn how to suck, how to eat. Occupational therapists do that. So Kyan has never known a life without therapy, ever. But that is where I step in, because I've always known that there was something that she needed, just a little extra help. And so I always lean into that intuition, even though I never knew exactly what it was that she had or her diagnosis. I just always knew she needed a little extra hand holding, and I was okay with that. The one thing that did like kind of rattle me is how people, and this is including me, don't understand the significance of having a premature baby and the gravity of child development in the womb. So people will be like, "Oh, is she crawling yet?" And I'm like, "Dude, no, she hasn't even flipped over. Like, you could put her on her stomach, she has no idea how to flip over. You could put her on her back, she has no idea. She didn't learn how to turn over from back to front until she was 9 months old." And it would kill me to have these coworkers of mine come over and show me pictures or show me their kids' first footsteps, and I'm like, "Dude, know your audience. Like, you are doing nothing but pissing me off and making me harbor a lot of resentments towards you, your family, your typical child. And I'm over here struggling to get my daughter to learn how to eat or drink a bottle." So we'll fast forward up until her 15 months. 15 months is when Draco was born. 15 months is when I started to do my own investigating, because she would, for those of you who are watching, she would do this a lot when she was excited. And so that is one of the first things that I noticed when I was doing my Google research. Yeah, because I'm a doctor, right? And I was a Google doctor. And my husband hated it, and I'll get to that here in a moment. But it's called flapping. So a child who flaps a lot, children flap. This is normal, but they grow out of it after like 6 to 9 months. And so Kyan is at 15 months still flapping with no facial expressions, not really laughing. If another thing is, if you point at somewhere in the room and you're like, "Oh my gosh, look," your child should be able to navigate or like understand that you should point. So that was another red flag. Oh yes, tell me.
I just have a question. So
Yeah.
at this point, with all
Yeah.
the doctors and
Yeah.
therapists, and
Yeah.
are they just thinking she's developmentally delayed because she's a preemie?
Yeah, and that's exactly what my husband, like everyone was like, "Sasha, you need to give her some grace." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, but do you know who I am?" So you have to realize, you guys, this little girl has completely like changed and morphed me. For me, I'm a perfectionist. I'm a control freak. And when you're a perfectionist and you're a control freak, you expect everything to be perfect and incredible. Like there's no room for error in Sasha's world back in 2018, 2019. Like all of this stuff that was thrown at me, like I'm a very blessed person. Yes, I have had issues, self-inflicted issues, but at the end of the day, I get stuff done, and I get stuff done perfectly, right? And I get stuff done to a standard and a level that I have set for myself, and I had set for my daughter. That's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. There were so many red flags that at 15 months, I started doing all of my research. I started taking all of those tests. They're called like MChats, I believe. It's very similar to MCAT, but MCAT is for medical school, so that's how I just differentiate the two of them. MChat. And this is 21 questions that you ask yourself, or your doctor will ask you at your 18-month mark. And you basically go through and it says, does your child have a fear for loud noises or for like your daily household items like blenders and vacuums? And your typical child will scream at the sound of those. Like they will like lose it. Kyan? No, not at all. Does your child love climbing excessively? Oh my gosh, excessively. Like you can't, like even now our very common thing every night is, Kyan, you're not a cat. Kyan, get off the table. Kyan, you're not a cat. Kyan, meow, like you're not a cat. Like, cause she's always trying to climb on the table or the counters or whatever. Another one is when you point, does she look, or he or she look? And no. Does your child build blocks? Like there was never dolly toys. There's no, or when your child plays with a toy, does your child look back at you trying to like show interest or play with you? And that never happened. Like all of these things didn't happen ever. And I remember at the 16th to 7th month, I was 2 months of grieving all by myself. So every night crying, reaching out to Tasha, reaching out to Danny and saying, I'm pretty sure my daughter has autism. In fact, I remember there was this other mom, her son has special needs, and I reached out to her and I sent her a video recording Kyan. Kyan had a box of crackers in her hand. And I remember recording this video and
Hold on one second,
yeah.
Sash.
Yeah.
Jesse, did she freeze up there on your side? Okay.
Okay, so I remember I had sent a video to my girlfriend who her son also has special needs, and I remember sending her this video of Kyan with her crackers and saying her name, Kyan, Kyan, Kyan. Nothing. She wouldn't turn around. She wasn't responding to her name. And I remember at that moment feeling so alone because here it is, I'm reaching out, I'm being vulnerable, and I'm saying to this other special needs mom, her son has physical disabilities, whereas my daughter has mental disabilities. And she said, oh, your daughter will be fine. Most kids don't respond to, especially when they have crackers, that's it. And I just remember in that moment thinking, wow, I'm really going to do this alone. I'm going to be on this adventure alone. And so I reached out to Kyan's pediatric doctor because I'm like, this is not prematurity. Like, this is not Kyan being difficult. This is not, like, this is something, and I need someone to just validate me. Like, my husband, I love you, Andrew. I really do. But my husband wasn't validating me. My mother, again, everyone was just like, there's nothing wrong with your daughter. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with her, but if there's something that I can do, if that means that I can get a diagnosis, which means that I can further her resources, then I am going to do it. I'm going to do it. So we went to her pediatric doctor. He ran through the MChat. He, I guess before I should say this is when Andrew gave me my blessing, because I wouldn't have done this without my husband giving me the blessing. There was one night in November, 16, 17 months old, and I said to him, Andrew, please listen to me. I'm going to do this one time. I'm going to go through the MChat with you, and I want you to honestly respond to every single question the best that you can, okay? And then at the end of this, once I go through and it gives us our answer, if it says she does not have any probability or any flags for autism, I promise you I will drop it. I won't ever bring it up again. But I need you to be on the same page with me, and I need you to answer these things honestly. And so he did. We submitted it to the website, and it said, like, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. Take your doctor, da, 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 da. Reach out to your doctor right now, right now, right now. Like, it was like the severest severe red flag, like your computer had a virus type of thing. Like, that's the way it came back. And Andrew goes, okay, Sasha, you can take her to the pediatric doctor and you can start from here. Okay, so awesome. You would think that it's as easy as getting in and getting a diagnosis. Absolutely not. So the first thing you have to do is, after you get your doctor to go through the MChat with you, is you have to go get their hearing tested. So we didn't only get her hearing tested once, but we got her hearing tested twice. Now, why? Because maybe she doesn't have autism and maybe she just has a hearing issue, right? So if I'm calling her name and I'm saying Kyan, 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 and she's not responding, well, what if it's something as easy as fixing her hearing? Awesome. Came back, perfect hearing. Okay, so like that wasn't it. Booked my appointment with Monroe Meyer, and Monroe Meyer is the specialist here in town for children with autism and Down syndrome and things of that nature. And I called and they said, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, we're booked out for like 6 months or some craziness like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's not an option. So I'm going to call you back every single day to see if someone has canceled that day. I'm that woman, so if you want to deal with me, like, get ready. Otherwise, like, put me on, and they're like, oh my gosh. So the very next day I get a call, and they're like, okay, we had someone cancel. Can you come in? So I'm at work. This was pre-COVID, so of course I'm in the office. I just grabbed my stuff out of the office. I'm like, bye guys, gotta go. And at this time, only 2 of my coworkers knew what was going on. I was a mess. I was a messy mess. I was not sleeping because Draco was 3 months old. I was hormonal because Draco was 3 months old. I was just a messy mess. And we get there and they run through this precursor test. And then they go, okay, well, she passed and now we can continue to book her for the next tests. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, I don't get a diagnosis today. And they're like, oh no, for insurance purposes, you have to do this first test to see if she needs the tests to see if she has autism. I'm like, this is like, did you guys not hear what I said to you yesterday on the phone? Like, do you hear me? And they're like, yes, we do. We'll let you know when the next opening is. This is in February 13th. They give us a call to say that another person had canceled. We could go in and do the testing. The testing is supposed to take like 4 hours. It took us like 2 hours because every single thing they'd be like, spoon. She's 22 months old. Spoon, match the spoon. And she'd just like go play with the fan or the banister or like just odd objects. Like there was no connecting. So they, that day on February 13th of 2020, pre-COVID, diagnosed Kyan with level 3 autism and a global developmental delay. Now, level 3 is the most severe level, and there's only 3 levels, the most severe level of autism. And at that moment, she was intellectually on par with, like, I'd say a 6 to 9 month old. So she's 22 months old, but is really more like a 6 to 9 month old. And from that day, my grieving journey turned into a different type of grieving journey, because the grieving journey from 15 to 22 months was more of a grieving journey of, do I really have a child with special needs? I really do have a child with special needs, and the control and the expectancy of what my life was supposed to be like completely flew out the window that day. It was a confirmation that I would not be a mom with a daughter who would run to me and want to do tea parties. I would have a daughter who runs away from me. I mean, even last night, this is an example of who Kyan is, and I, again, like I said, I'm in the process of therapy. I just started last month. I wouldn't change her for anything in the world. It has taken me a long time to get here. But for example, last night I was outside cleaning the Jeep, and I took my eye off of her for 0.5 seconds, and she was standing in the middle of the street. Okay, so like, there's never a moment in Kyan's life that Kyan can't have someone around her. Like, she has to have someone around her to watch her, because she is in her own world. She is doing her own thing. She is dancing to the beat of her own badass drum. Like, that little girl, she has no cares to give, because she is complete and she is okay just on her own. Like, If she has to eat, she tells you she has to eat. If she doesn't want to eat, she has no problem telling you she doesn't want to eat. She's 4 years old, and eats like a 12-month-old. So everything is finger food still. She's very messy. She just shoves it in her mouth. And Kyan has taught me so many things, but the biggest one was that I'm not in control of anything. Nothing. I have control of nothing besides who I am, what I say, and what I do. And everything from there, I have to just make sure that I maintain and keep my side of the street clean, so that when people come to my house and they say, this is what is going on, I no longer think of it as, oh girl, you need to change that. Instead, I come to them with this level of grace and saying, I see who you are, I validate who you are, and welcome home.
Well, my friend, thank you for sharing all of that. And there's clearly so much more to tell, but I think this is a good introduction to a mom whose life is way different from how she thought it would be. And Kyan is 4. There are still so many more lessons that will be taught. And the lessons she's teaching you, she's teaching everybody else as well. And allowing you to be that voice and to help other people who maybe were that perfect Sasha and have that expectation and maybe are learning to give grace to yourself, to give grace to others, because things are not always what they seem. Things are not going to be the way you think they're going to be. And I think that's a metaphor for everybody's life, whether it ends up, with a special needs child that you weren't planning on, or it ends up with a relationship ending that you never thought would end, or it ends up with a situation that's amazing that you never ever imagined would be amazing. Is we don't know anything about anything except for right now what we control, and then the lessons that we choose to learn from what's given to us. And I think, if nothing else, I hope the listeners got that from this today. And I know we'll continue to have lots of conversations on this topic, because just because April is Autism Awareness Month doesn't mean this is the only time we're ever going to talk about it, because I think awareness for lots of different things is something that we could all benefit from. So thank you for sharing all that.
Absolutely.
Anything that you want to wrap up with?
Yeah, this isn't necessarily like an ending tool, but this just reminded me of this one moment. There was this gal that I used to be friends with, we're no longer friends with, and I'm okay with that. I think this was one of the instances that kind of threw her off. I was in her bridal party. I was actually pregnant with Draco at the time. And I had said it was a group of women, and I was getting ready. And this is why I'm sharing the story. There's an importance to this story. I shared with them that I don't connect with my daughter, and that at that moment, I almost wish, like, there wasn't a daughter to, like... And in this moment, as soon as those words left my mouth, and I was like, I just don't connect with her. Like, there just isn't a like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand this motherhood thing, because it's not meant for me. It's not made for me. My daughter's just not there, and I just don't. And these two women looked at me as if I was, like, the worst person on the face of this earth. So why am I sharing this story? Because, you guys, if someone is vulnerable to tell you something like that, do not make them feel like a pile. Do not. You are only hurting that person. If a person feels safe in that space to say, I don't connect with my child, I don't understand my child, why did I have my child, anything like that, say, thank you so much for sharing. You don't have to understand, you guys, but don't push that person away. In that moment, like I said, I was still pregnant with Draco, so this was before her diagnosis. This is before anything. I felt like scumbag of the earth, because I was just being vulnerable and I was being honest. When someone asked me, how do you like motherhood? And I said, I don't. And to get a response like, ew, who are you? What kind of woman are you? Like, that was defeating and took away so much of my joy that I didn't even have much joy in that moment. And so If a person comes to you, or if a person, same example with the crackers story, if a person comes to you, if a person reaches out to you asking for validation or for a response or for hope, and you don't know how to respond, instead of negating it or making that person feel less than, say, you know what, no one has ever said something to me like that before, but I'm here for you. Because all I needed was comfort and validation. I'm not asking anyone to solve my problems. I understand that they are my problems to solve. But don't make me or a person around you feel less than when they are just asking, perhaps begging to be heard.
Well, and Sasha, that's what one of the things I love about you so much is you are brave enough to be honest. I am willing to bet any mother who has faced a challenge similar to yours has had those exact feelings. Most of them are probably not brave enough to say it out loud and to say it out loud to the universe, to anybody who's out there. And I think we should be able to have honest conversations. It is completely acceptable to be upset with the life you've been dealt. I mean, that you wouldn't be normal if you just saw the good in all of it. That's not normal. And anybody who is on that track, maybe you're incredibly unique, and yay for you. I wish we had more incredibly unique people. But it is normal to have anger and guilt and frustration and envy and jealousy and all of that. Totally normal in the face of any challenge that we have, whatever it is. But if we're not allowed to say that out loud without then being judged or criticized or looked at sideways or disemboweled, then people aren't going to be honest about their feelings, and then we can't advance the conversation.
Amen.
So
Amen to that.
that's what you and I have committed to doing, is being real and honest and raw and vulnerable. And anytime I hear something from you, I'm that I want to challenge, I'm going to challenge it. I want you to stop apologizing, stop saying, I don't mean to offend anybody. If somebody is offended, that is on them. And I don't want you to have to justify or preempt everything by saying, I don't mean to offend. I know you, and anybody who's listening to us, if you don't know us yet, I encourage you to get to know us. Sasha is never out to offend somebody, ever. Neither am I. But somebody is always going to take offense to something you or I say. That's the reality of life.
Yeah.
And I hope we can all get to that place where we stop having to say, I don't mean to offend anyone, because I know I genuinely don't. I know you genuinely don't. And if we can just start from that position, I think we can just have honest conversations.
Yeah, I agree. It is a part of healing. I think this is a brand new journey for me, and my therapist this last week told me that she believes that this birthday, so Kyan will be 4 on the 28th of this month, she believes that this birthday will be my most difficult, because I'm finally accepting and acknowledging all of the things that I've been through, and all the trauma and the PTSD and the postpartum. And I do agree that this birthday will be, she called it a grief-versary. So I am geared and ready for the end of this month to be the hardest. If I could leave one thing for everyone, it would be with this for Kyan's birthday, and for me and for this world. If you take one thing from this podcast for Kyan's birthday, I would love for everyone to take, it's called the R word pledge. So often people throw out the word retard, retarded, and that word has a new meaning, and a very, I don't want to say special meaning, but it has it holds a place on the shelf in my heart. And for those of you who don't know what it is, I took it in 2016. I remember Rory Audino, we were at work, and I'm leaving you guys with this, but I was at work and I said something like, oh, that is so retarded. And he looked at me and he said, "Why did you use that word? Rory or Adino, if you listening to this, you changed my world, man. This is pre-Kyan and everything." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You don't use that word." And like, he was just so steadfast. He was just so like real about it. And he goes, "You need to go look up the R word pledge." So that day at Focus One Solutions in the office, I went and I Googled R word pledge. And as of 2016, I don't use that word to describe anything other than the medical field of things. So for those of you listening, if you do not mind, if you have not taken this yet, please go and Google or Bing or whatever search engine you use, the R word pledge. And if this podcast has moved you enough to take on that pledge to never say the R word again, you're making this world a safer and a more welcoming place for my family and so many other families out there.
It's beautiful. Well, I absolutely take that pledge. I love you, my friend. I appreciate you. I thank you for sharing all of this. We got through it. It was great. I know it was a hard conversation. We were ready for it. So thank you. And anybody listening, I mean, hopefully this opened your eyes to a different perspective. You know, I think one thing too that we'll probably have conversation on is just judgment. You know, when we see something that doesn't make sense to us, we tend to judge it, which again is totally normal. It is normal for humans to judge other things. I'm going to leave with this challenge. Rather than judging something that you don't agree with or understand or like, maybe you want to be curious about it instead. And I'm going to leave us on that note. Thank you, my friend. I love you. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.